The airplane cabin was calm at 35,000 feet, the kind of calm where people sink into novels, headphones, and soft blankets. But that calm shattered in seconds when Evelyn Moretti, the elegant wife of a billionaire, suddenly slumped forward in her seat. Her necklace glimmered faintly in the cabin light as her eyes closed and her head tilted lifelessly. Gasps erupted, a businessman cried out for help, and the air turned thick with panic. It was a moment where time seemed to freeze, where every heartbeat sounded like thunder, and where no one seemed to know what to do. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of ordinary people to change lives in extraordinary ways, take a second now to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because stories like this remind us that miracles often come from the most unexpected places. Evelyn Moretti wasn't just another passenger. She was the wife of Adrian Moretti, one of the most influential billionaires in the world, seated just a row behind her. Adrian's hands clutched his head in horror as he shouted for a doctor, his voice trembling in a way no one had ever seen from the man known for his ruthless composure in boardrooms. Flight attendants rushed forward, but their training manuals seemed to blur under the pressure of the moment. They searched for medical help among the passengers, but no one responded. People whispered, some shrank back, terrified. In the midst of this chaos, a boy in a blue janitor's uniform, seated awkwardly near the back of the cabin, stood up. His name was Marcus Hale, a 17-year-old working part-time as a janitor at the airport. He wasn't supposed to be on this flight. A scheduling error had accidentally upgraded him to a standby passenger after his shift cleaning the very plane he now sat on. He had been heading home to visit his sick mother in a small town, his ticket a gift from a sympathetic supervisor. He had no wealth, no influence, and certainly no medical degree. Yet something inside him refused to let him stay seated while a life was slipping away in front of him. Marcus pushed through the narrow aisle, his heart pounding like drums in his ears. People stared, some muttered, others shook their heads. Who was this boy to think he could help? But Marcus had seen things others hadn't. His mother had lived with a heart condition for years, and he had spent countless nights by her side when she collapsed, learning from paramedics and local nurses what to do in moments of crisis. He wasn't a doctor, but he had something almost as powerful: courage, instinct, and a will to try. He knelt beside Evelyn, noticing her shallow breathing and the pallor on her face. The flight attendant stepped back, unsure whether to intervene, but Adrian's desperate eyes met Marcus's, silently begging him to do something. The boy placed his hands over Evelyn's chest and began chest compressions, steady and focused, just as he had practiced on training dummies in free community classes. Every push was a prayer, every breath he gave her a silent promise that she would not be left alone. The cabin went silent except for the rhythmic sound of his effort, the beeping of the oxygen machine being prepared, and the muffled sobs of Adrian behind him. Minutes felt like hours. Some passengers whispered that it was hopeless, others closed their eyes in silent prayer. But Marcus never faltered. Sweat poured down his forehead, his arms ached, but he pressed on, his youthful determination shining brighter than any diamond Evelyn wore. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Evelyn gasped, a shallow, fragile breath, but a breath nonetheless. Her chest rose weakly, and her eyes fluttered open just enough to signal life. A collective gasp swept the cabin, and then relief spread like wildfire. Adrian Moretti, the man who owned skyscrapers and empires, collapsed into tears as he leaned forward to grip his wife's trembling hand. Flight attendants quickly secured oxygen masks, passengers erupted in applause, and Marcus sat back against the aisle wall, exhausted, tears stinging his eyes not from weakness, but from the overwhelming realization of what had just happened. But what moved people the most wasn't just that Evelyn survived. It was who had saved her. The contrast was staggering. The billionaire's wife, draped in wealth and prestige, had her life pulled back from the edge not by a doctor, not by another billionaire, but by a teenage janitor in a cheap uniform who had been invisible to most of the world just hours ago. It was a moment that stripped away the illusions of class and status, revealing the raw truth that compassion knows no boundaries. As the flight prepared for an emergency landing, Adrian sat beside Marcus. For the first time, the billionaire saw not just a boy, but a hero. Adrian's gratitude was wordless, his teary nod and trembling hand on Marcus's shoulder spoke louder than anything. In those quiet minutes before landing, Marcus thought of his mother, of the nights she had told him he was stronger than he believed, and he felt for the first time that her words were true. When the plane landed, paramedics rushed Evelyn to a hospital where she stabilized further. News of the event spread quickly. Headlines exploded, Teenage janitor saves billionaire's wife at 35,000 feet. Interviews flooded in, reporters hounded Marcus, but through it all, he remained humble. He didn't see himself as a hero, he had only done what his heart told him to do. Adrian, however, would never forget. The man who had once believed money could solve anything learned that sometimes, salvation comes from the unlikeliest of places. In the weeks that followed, he visited Marcus and his mother, offering not just financial help but genuine friendship. Evelyn, still weak but recovering, held Marcus's hand during a press conference and called him her guardian angel in disguise. The story of Marcus Hale became more than news. It became a symbol of humanity's quiet strength, a reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms of authority, sometimes they wear the plain clothes of those society overlooks. On that ordinary flight, in that extraordinary moment, a boy no one expected rose to save a life, and in doing so, saved much more than that. He saved hope, faith, and the belief that kindness, in its purest form, can change everything. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of the hidden strength in ordinary people, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more stories that celebrate the power of kindness and second chances. And before we end, I'd love for you to comment below, do you believe heroes are born, or are they made in the moments that matter most? Because sometimes, it takes a crisis at 35,000 feet to show us that true heroes are already among us, quietly waiting for their chance to do the unthinkable.